What's up, everybody? It's Brian J. Coming back with another edition of Horror Reanimated, where we take the world of horror, we take dead concepts, fantasy ideas, fan fiction, and ideas that hit the cutting room floor, and we bring new life to them, hence Reanimated. I am Brian J. You can follow me on social media if you dare at Show Brianand. That'll work for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hopefully I'll have a page for the show up soon somewhere. But if not, just follow me on social media, and you can check out all the shows at bshowpodcast.com. You can email the show, bshowbrian@gmail.com. And this week is an interesting scenario. Now, last time I said something about an Expendables of horror, or the female Expendables, something like that. And I've been kind of toying with this for a while. And at first I thought it was kind of hokey. Like, oh, hey, a bunch of final girls, and they're going to, fight Jason or fight Michael Myers or Freddy. And then I think last night I'm sitting up and I was tired, and my brain started going, and I just, for some reason, thought of a concept that not only could work in a movie, but it'd actually probably be better suited for an independent comic book because of the rights issues with different franchises. So that's what we're talking tonight. I'm going to call it Scream Queens. So tonight is Scream Queens. It's about, I was trying to figure out in my own warped way how I would do a Final Girls Expendables type of movie. And I guess we'll just kind of go through that. But again, if you have any ideas, if you have a different way you would do it, if you have other people you would use after you hear this, let me know. bshowbrian@gmail.com, or again, you can reach out to me on social media. But happy Women of Horror Month. It's Happy Valentine's Day for some of you. Thought about doing My Bloody Valentine, but I really on short notice couldn't think of anything to do. So we're talking Scream Queens. And everyone wants to talk about their favorite Scream Queen, their favorite final girl. This week I want to take and create it would really be almost like the X-Men. Almost like the X-Men of horror movies, of final girls. And I started thinking, because I sat down very basically, and this is how I do most shows. This is my show prep. I just sit down and I grab a legal pad, a yellow pad of paper, and a pen, and I just start writing. I get an idea and I just start writing. And I write names, I write ideas, I write concepts, and somehow it works itself out. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and I'll let you guys be the judge. But in this case, I started out with a concept that I really wasn't into. And after a few minutes, something hit me, and I really got into it because I started thinking. First of all, that little thing called logic, even though we're talking about horror movies and fantasy films and sci-fi, and although logic doesn't always apply. A lot of times it's checked at the door. You just gotta leave that behind. But I started thinking about, okay, who are you going to pick? So I started with, Halloween. Who would you use? You have Laurie Strode, but we've seen that done to death. She's had her first movie, the second movie, The Return, the second return after the retcon. What else are you going to do with her? So then I moved on to the next franchise. I'm thinking, and again, a lot of the stuff I talk about is probably going to be slasher era stuff, because that's the era I grew up on. That's what I cut my teeth on. And honestly, I think, I don't want to say it's the best era, because the 70s or 60s, 70s had some good horror movies. I love Hitchcock. I love the original movie monsters, but to me, it's always going to be in my heart the slasher era. So just warning. I'll do some other stuff here and there, but just warning you, a lot of this show is going to center around the heyday of the slasher. So I moved on to the next one. I'm thinking, okay, well, A Nightmare on Elm Street's a pretty easy one. You could have Nancy Thompson, although she kind of did her own group thing in part 3, where she mentored the Dream Warriors Elm Street kids. So I was like, okay, I don't know about that. Plus, I don't think she's... To me, no one really stood out at first as far as uniqueness, like special powers or whatever. So then I thought of, okay, there's Alice. She had some the ability to absorb her friend's dream powers, right? So I'm like, okay, I think it'd be interesting. And then I thought of a couple other people, and I just wasn't really thrilled, so I moved on. I'm like, all right, maybe you've got Alice, maybe you've got Kristen. What else is there? So then I thought of Tina from Friday the 13th. And I'm like, all right, that's a good final girl, and I've always liked Ginny. And for some reason, my mind kept going to these people in the franchises, these final girls that had some sort of iconic spin to them. Like Laurie obviously is the original from that era. Some would say Olivia Hussey is because of Black Christmas. But as far as the heyday in the golden age of the slasher, Laurie Strode was the granddaddy of them all, or the grandmama. I don't know. How do you apply that? Grandmama? Anyway. So Laurie's the iconic. She always stands out. But to me, there was nothing really that's special in a crowd like this, because everyone seemed to have like a special trait. And then that was the idea. I'm like, wait a minute. I looked at Laurie from 2018 Halloween, and I'm like, the gunslinger. So she's like the cowboy, cowgirl, cowboy, whatever. Cowboy doesn't have to be gender specific. A cowboy's a cowboy. And Laurie was a cowboy. She was a gunslinger. So I'm like, okay, she's a gunslinger. And then I thought about Kristen and Alice, and they're the dream warrior. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Now I'm onto something here. So what I ended up coming up with is just a hypothetical list of about 8 people, and you can keep building it out. And I'm going to talk about a couple of them, then talk about the concept. But that it worked its way around the rights issues with trying to mix these film franchises together. Because Blumhouse is absorbing a bunch, but they're not going to be able to pick all of them up. But I started thinking, like, this doesn't even have to be Laurie Strode, Alice, Tina Shepard, right? I mentioned. It doesn't have to be all those people. It could be characters based on them. So like I said, the gunslinger, you've got a character that's kind of loosely based on Laurie Strode. In Halloween 2018, she could have those same traits. She's headstrong, she's tenacious, she's reserved, but she acts with agency, and she is a hell of a shot and is well armed. To me, that's a great classic, dare I say, Western type character. I mean, it is the gunslinger. She'd be Doc Holliday. Just a drunk, like, she was a modern day version of a female Doc Holliday in that movie. She was just waiting to blow someone away. She's down in alcohol left and right. Still charismatic, in her own way. And I tease about that, but that's why I really got excited about this idea, because, like, as I mentioned, the rights issues, you're not going to make a movie with Laurie Strode and all these other characters and then mix in the bad guys, because it's not going to work. We saw that with Freddy vs. Jason. It took like 17 years to make. But what you could do is, as I mentioned, take those archetype characters and put them together on almost like an Avengers-like team, where, like, on the Avengers you had the Hulk. He's the big bull in a china shop. He's your shit kicker. You've got Thor. He's a god, right? With his mighty hammer. You've got Captain America. You've got Iron Man. You've got Spider-Man. You've got Ant-Man. You've got Captain Marvel. You've got Scarlet Witch. Vision. So to me, it would be more like a female Avengers version of Final Girls than the Expendables, right? So in doing that, you could also open up the possibilities for fighting against characters. You don't have to just fight against Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees. You can take it into different universes. Or in this case, maybe, like, here's an idea. Anyone out there who's writing comic books, take this idea, just give me credit or something. I don't care. Shout me out and plug the show. But like imagine taking a group of these people and maybe you do ensemble issues with all of them together, almost like they do with the Avengers. And again, I didn't even think about it being like the Avengers until I just turned on the microphone. But much like the Avengers, you could have these huge major issues where they all come together, but then have individual stories weave in and out of each other, almost like The Walking Dead used to do. Like everyone would break off and they do their own thing, and then they come back together. And when they did, there were stronger characters, and they were stronger as individuals, but then they come together to fight the common good. And to me, that sounds like more of an upside because you have more opportunity for adventures, and it may be even better suited for a comic book series than a film or a Disney Plus or something like that. So I don't know, that sounds pretty marketable to me, being able to do group stuff and individual and build out these universes. So all right, let's start. Let's get started. We're already 11 minutes in. I think you guys got the concept. Hopefully you dig it. But the first one, obviously, I went with is the gunslinger, Laurie Strode. And I already mentioned she'd be like, that character would be like a Doc Holliday. It would be, you could be anything you want it to be. But that was what I was thinking was, it's Laurie Strode from 2018. And she could be younger or she could be older. I mean, I think there's upside to both. She could be the elder statesman of the group where she's like old and a bit senile. So yeah, take Laurie from 2018 and mix in a little bit of what's his name? Clint Eastwood's character from Gran Torino. So a little old, a little cranky, but a hell of a shot, a hard drinker, but still has like those other characteristics that make Laurie. Like she's, I don't want to say the leader of the group. You could make her the leader of the group. But I don't know. I went with her over, obviously you could have, I'm going to save that one for the end. I'm going to save it for the end. But, Laurie the gunslinger, Laurie or the gunslinger, I guess. So then I was looking for the Dream Warrior. And this was a tough one. I'm still not decided yet. I mentioned Kristen and Alice. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of the later Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I've seen parts of Part 4. Some of the nightmares are awesome. Freddy got a little bit too Johnny Carson for my taste. And I don't mind comedy and horror, but it just, when it supersedes horror and becomes goofy, shticky stuff, it just takes me out of it. Which is why I like Part 2 probably the best out of the series. But I don't know. Part 2, maybe not my favorite. So Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 in that order. So, but we have the gunslinger. She'd obviously go after the boogeyman and, different type of characters. But the one thing I was thinking of is I almost wanted one character who could vanquish different types of enemies. So Laurie the gunslinger, shooting with guns, that's going to be a very real-world, physical, tangible, terrestrial villain. Your boogeymen, your mass murderers, your Jack the Ripper type, stuff in the real world, right? Shadowy figures, outlaws, bandits. So, maybe sexual predators. Maybe that's what she does now. She hunts down. She's like Batman, right? The Avenger. But that's my point. Very real world, very terrestrial, very tangible, right? If she's shooting with guns. So then I started thinking about maybe not a ghost hunter, but the Dream Warrior. And the Dream Warrior wouldn't necessarily be, because remember, we're kind of walking outside of the boundaries of the original films here. Walking outside the boundaries of just dreams. So maybe the Dream Warrior is not just powerful in the dream world, but maybe they have some sort of command, almost like the Scarlet Witch can manipulate energy and things like that. So taking it a little bit comic booky, but that's what I was trying to figure that out with the Dream Warrior. Like how would they be incorporated into the group? But maybe they would be Maybe they would tackle, maybe ghosts, but more from a psychokinetic standpoint. And some of these people will probably work together or be very similar. So maybe the Dream Warrior does have an impressive command over their dreams, and they have powers in their dreams, and can maybe walk between the realms. Yeah, so maybe the Dream Warrior walks between the realms. It's not just Dream Warrior, it's, transcending space and time, which would be very interesting. And Alice seems like a stronger character than Kristen, because I think Kristen was killed in part 4. And Alice is supposed to have more powers. So that was hard for me. I'll leave that up to you guys. But the character that I think I would choose, and it would be an interesting choice, because remember, I said Scream Queens, and although this is Women in Horror Month, he is a Scream Queen. Mark Patton, right? Jesse Walsh from part 2. Jesse Walsh, one would argue, this is just me continuing my Jesse's revenge story from a couple episodes ago. And you'd probably be right. But I would like to see, and maybe partly as kind of in jest, haha, you have the Scream Queen is a male Scream Queen, right? He's a Scream Queen, though. He just happens to be a guy. Being Women in Horror Month, I would say maybe leave that alone. And then, so your choice, maybe Alice, Jesse, Kristen, whatever. So then I was thinking, okay, if we have individual skills, what about the Puzzler seems, I don't know, like a corny name. So maybe you come up with a different name. But Tiffany from Hellraiser 2, the girl who figured out the puzzles. And that could be, oh man, that could be more than just puzzles, like puzzle boxes and stuff. That could be mysteries, and not to make this sound like Scooby-Doo, although I love Scooby-Doo. That could be like, imagine they're tracking a serial killer, and Laurie's trying to gun him down. And whoever the Dream Warrior would be, I gotta start saying their alter ego names, because again, this might be better suited if you're not just using the individuals from the franchises. So the gunslinger's trying to chase down some bad guy, right? So the Dream Warrior walks between the realms and finds this person through their dreams, maybe tracks him down, and they're trying to figure out some secret. So then the Dream Warrior would take the Puzzler with them, and the Puzzler would literally, I hate saying literally, the Puzzler may sift through their mind and trying to unlock whatever it is they're trying to find out. Or maybe they link up with someone that I'll mention in a minute. I mentioned Tina Shepard, the psychic, right? So Tina Shepard can manipulate things with her mind with psychic powers. Maybe her and the Puzzler team up, and the psychic and the Puzzler can, you see what I mean? Like, you can kind of meld your powers together. So maybe they're not solving a lament configuration. Maybe they're trying to solve some, I don't know, mental puzzle, or someone's brains are scrambled. Yeah, I don't know. I think the idea is there. I'm just having a hard time grabbing specific examples of it. So, but no, that's what I'm saying is a lot of these people can have adventures on their own. And sorry, I'm starting to get a little distracted now, because not only, today's been a tense day, so I've got tension in my throat, which is bothering me, and I'm starting to get a migraine. But I was so into this concept that I had to do this. I had to do it. So I think a lot of these women would work in movies or adventures on their own. But when you bring them together, then their powers can kind of interlock. Almost like, I hate to say, like the Power Rangers come together and morph their Zords together. But in this case, it would be like, again, the psychic working with the Dream Warrior. Or the psychic working with the Puzzler, either way. So you could have, Tina working with, Kristen or Alice, or I guess Jesse. But, the puzzler working with the Dream Warrior or with the psychic. Then I was thinking of other kinds of monsters. And I thought of demons. So the Demon Slayer, but I thought, that's a little vague, the Demon Slayer. How would you slay and vanquish demons? I've never been a huge fan of ghost story movies. Because, again, I mentioned in the Jesse episode, like, how do you vanquish a ghost? It's not a physical thing. It's not even a psychological thing. It's just, it's an intangible entity. So instead, I thought, what about a necromancer? Right? Someone who's, I don't want to say casting spells like a witch, because I have another idea for that, but Mia from the new Evil Dead. She's got the Necronomicon. So the gunslinger is the cowboy. The Dream Warrior has their powers. They're kind of walk between the realms. You got the puzzler who figures shit out. The problem solver. You've got Tina Shepard's, the psychic type character who can manipulate stuff with their mind. See how it's kind of coming together? It's almost like everyone's got their own superpower in a way. The Mia could, study and learn the Necronomicon. And she's a demon slayer in that sense. Not only does she fight against the evil dead, but she can command, different spirits and forces and all sorts of stuff. I mean, that's completely unwritten territory, to pardon the pun. So, and again, there's the necromancer. Maybe people are, maybe that's more spiritual than a witch. So, like, again, the witch, that was another one. I thought of Sarah from The Craft. She was a great character, super sexy too. But, Sarah as a witch, and she could even be like a den mother. She could be a little older and wiser. And, maybe she is more like earthly witch, whereas Mia the necromancer is almost like the spiritual netherworld incantations and things like that. Like Sarah's like the witch is like hexes and spells and earth-based witchly stuff. And then Mia or the necromancer could again be more like possessions and demons and stuff from beyond the grave. So again, could you imagine a series with the witch and the necromancer teaming up? And then maybe doing a 3-person with the Dream Warrior. I mean, that'd be fucking great. So then, I was thinking about a couple other ones too, because there's so many. And you can go on and on for days. But I came up with like 8 or 9. Okay. So we've got the gunslinger, we've got the Dream Warrior, we've got the puzzler, the necromancer, the psychic, obviously based on like Tina. You could throw another Friday the 13th one in there, and this one could also be kind of one that more works in lockstep with the others, more earthly. Throw in Ginny Field from part 2. And we talked about her on the last episode. So where Ginny is more of a terrestrial, like the witch or the gunslinger, or even the puzzler. God, I hate that name Puzzler. That sounds so stupid. But hang on, let me see something here. I just went to Google to try to figure this out, and they said enigmatologist is someone who solves puzzles and complex problems. And although I'm not sure I'm sold on the name, it's a little bit wordy. Enigmatologist, you could shorten it. But maybe Gunslinger, Dream Warrior, Enigma. I don't know about that. They also mentioned calling them an engineer, which would be very very ironic because of the character the engineer in the original Hellraiser. So I don't know. But anyway, you got the gunslinger, the Dream Warrior, the puzzler, the necromancer, the psychic, and maybe the psych. So the Ginny character would be like a psychic, I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. Or a psych, sorry. Or psych or doc or whoever. Someone who's just incredibly intelligent and, maybe whereas the puzzler or the enigmatologist, whatever the hell you want to call them, the problem solver is more internal and I'm trying to think. They internalize these things and try to solve them and it doesn't really talk. You'd have Ginny as like your charismatic, almost like put everything together. Right. So maybe Gunslinger wouldn't be your leader. Maybe Gunslinger is like your Daryl from The Walking Dead. Right? That type of it would be like Lori, but like your shit kicker gunblazer. You've got the Dream Warrior, you've got the puzzler who's like an internal problem solver, a mental think it through. Necromancer is your otherworldly demonic incantation Book of the Dead type person. Tina Shepard, a psychic type character who can move stuff with her mind and can probably work with the Dream Warrior. Then you have the psych, the Ginny type character who's very smart and understands the psychology of human behavior. You've got the witch, based on, like I said, Sarah, the more earthly side of the spiritual coin to the necromancer. And I was thinking through all this stuff. I'm like, all right, we got someone who can shoot bad guys. We've got a Dream Warrior who's more mental and other realms of consciousness. You've got someone who's figuring out puzzles and problems. You've got someone who's, I've read through all of these and I started thinking, we don't have a vampire slayer. We've got a demon hunter. We've got a witch. We don't have a vampire slayer. And I thought about this for a few minutes, and I kind of thought, like, is there anyone from the Blade movies that I would pick? And I don't really think so. I thought, is there anyone from any other movies? No, not really. John Carpenter's Vampires was a great movie, just didn't have that many women. And I thought, fuck it, why not Buffy? Buffy, the original, from the mid-90s. Basic character on that. She's young, she's cute. Now, that might be a problem there. But just, you can get a female vampire slayer. I don't know. And again, vampires are general. You could have physical vampires, psychological vampires. And if psychological vampires, well, there you go. You could team up the slayer with the psych and the psychic. You could have the witch and the necromancer team up. You could actually have the gunslinger with some silver bullets, or a stake shooter. See now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. You have a stake shooter or a cross. I'm trying to think, what could you do with a cross? Almost like a harpoon gun, and it's a cross with a spike on the end, or a stake. Like almost like a javelin with a cross on the end. And you just stake him right in the heart. Oh my God. But again, a group of women like that, you could add more. And if there's anyone that I left out that you guys would like to see, let me know. Because I thought about Chris Higgins from a character like that from Part 3, but again, she was too plain. She didn't stand out at all. To me, she didn't stand out. She was just a chick, right? A fighter. But nothing really stood out. And I guess you could use the robot from Jason X, but that movie sucks, so I've blocked that out of my memory for the most part. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? The Gunslinger, the Dream Warrior, the Puzzler, the Necromancer, the Psychic, the Psych, or Doc? Oh, the one I did forget that I wanted to mention, because I was only going to go about 30 minutes tonight. Like I said, I'm not feeling that great. And I want to be more mindful of your guys' time. I've been putting out a lot of podcasts lately, some wrestling ones, some general nerdy, like Star Wars stuff, and these. So if people are tuning in, I want to be mindful. I don't want to give you 3-4 hours of shit to listen to a week. I did think of one to close out this list, and I know a lot of people don't consider this horror, but I do. I don't see this as just a sci-fi movie because of the way it's set up. Like, people don't consider Jaws a horror movie. It is 100% a horror movie. But Ripley from the Alien series, I started thinking, again, I'm thinking we've got demon hunters, we got vampire slayers, we've got, witches. What else do we need? And now you've got your adventures in space. You've got the alien hunter or the alien killer. So, and again, that could be more than just the xenomorph. That could be anything else in space. And again, that could tie in with the Dream Warrior or the Necromancer. Could you imagine going to another planet or up in space and the Mia-type character reading an incantation from the Book of the Dead and raising some ancient, like, warrior alien race and spacecraft? Oh my God. So many possibilities. So many possibilities. And in this way, you don't have to limit yourself to, okay, so Laurie needs help. Like, you could do a couple different ways. You can do that, right? You could take 4, 5, 6 of these women and team them up against a Michael Myers, against a Freddy Krueger, against a Jason. And I guess it would make sense. But only, I think, if you did it almost like a vampire slayer looking to eradicate the world of vampires, almost like these women were hunting down, these scream queens were hunting down all of the monsters of the world, and they're gonna put an end to all of them. But I don't know how you would do that in space, because space is infinite. So, but I just looking at all the different women with different powers or skills or traits, whether you do it franchise specific, like you have Laurie, Alice or Kristen, you've got Tiffany, or I even put Kirsty, because who knows? Maybe Kirsty ends up mastering. She survived the Cenobites twice. Maybe she ends up eventually mastering the puzzle box, and she can wield it as she wishes, or she can walk between the realms. There's Mia, Tina Shepard-ish type character. You've got a Ginny character, kind of being the cute, charismatic, but extremely intelligent, cerebral, almost like the Professor X of the group in a way. You got like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you've got Sarah the Witch, and you've got a Ripley alien eradicator. To me, I'm hard pressed to find anybody else I'd add to that list. That's a pretty damn good list. And I thought a minute ago about a guy, right? Like a Bosley for the Charlie's Angels. If you wanted to do that, and I was thinking as Dr. Loomis, like this old bald dude surrounded by all these beautiful women, and he'll come out of retirement every once in a while to blow somebody away. But then I thought that character almost needs to be funny, and Loomis is too serious, especially with all these other serious characters. So why not? That's the bridge between the Evil Dead franchises. Maybe you make Ash the Bosley of the group. So Ash is back at home base, or he's like the coach, the captain, and these are his women, and he wouldn't even do anything. He's just hanging out, enjoying the fruits of the labor, being around all these girls, and they're doing all the hard work and getting the glory and stuff. They're like, well, what are you doing? And he's just drinking Shemps, because that's what Ash does. So I don't know. I think that sounds like a really fun concept. Forget Ash, whatever. They don't need a Bosley. But that to me sounds like an extremely fun idea. One, if you can do it with the characters to make them resemble the characters from the franchises in some way, but still be, I don't want to say generic enough, but far enough away from the source material that you're not going to get in trouble for copyright infringement. But again, I think it'd be much better than doing a series. It'd be fun to watch, but I think a comic book form, oh my God. Multiple series, multiple volumes, multiple group stuff. You could do the whole group together. You could do the group broken up into subgroups, as I mentioned. You could do individual stuff. So many different possibilities. And to me, that sounds like a really marketable, or not marketable, nah, I don't know about that. Sounds like a ripe idea with a lot of different directions you can go in. So, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy and I'm having delusions of grandeur, but I was really excited to share that idea in Women in Horror Month, the Scream Queens, Expendables of Horror, of the Final Girls. So, what do you think? Email me, bshowbrian@gmail.com. You can reach me on social media at bshowbrian. I will be back sometime. I'm just going to try to put these up as I do them. May not be every week. Maybe I'll do 2-parters and whatever. Whatever. We're just having fun. I pull back the curtain too much, man. You guys don't give a shit about that stuff. But anyway, my name's Brian J. Thank you for hanging out. If you ever have any ideas or you have anything that you would like to add, let me know, and I'll definitely bring it up on the show. But that's it for this week. Enjoy the rest of your Valentine's Day with your sweethearts or whoever, or alone, or whatever you do. I don't judge. And like I said, hit me up. Let me know. I'm Brian J. This is Horror Reanimated.